The transport shuttle doors opened with a hiss, and 37 recruits stepped onto Station Fortitude's main deck. Danny Ortiz adjusted the worn duffel bag on his shoulder and looked around at the beings surrounding him. Tall, wolf-like creatures with silver fur stood beside insectoid soldiers with 6 arms. Crystalline beings that looked like walking gemstones chatted with aquatic species wearing environmental suits. Everyone looked serious, focused, ready. Danny grinned. This was going to be interesting. Station Fortitude was famous across 12 star systems. The Galactic Defense Initiative ran their elite training program here, and only 12% of recruits ever completed it. The rest quit, failed out, or got medically discharged. It was considered the hardest military program in known space. A massive wolf-like instructor stepped forward. His fur was dark gray with scars crossing his muzzle. "I am Chief Instructor Vorn," he announced. His voice echoed across the bay. "You are here because your governments believe you are the best. Most of you are wrong." Danny noticed several recruits straightening their postures. He stayed relaxed, hands in his pockets. "In 2 hours, you will begin a 72-hour continuous training exercise," Vorn continued. "No sleep. Minimal food. Constant physical and mental challenges. At any station, you will find a dropout button. Press it, and you leave immediately. No shame, no questions. This program breaks everyone eventually." A crystalline being near Danny processed this information. Her name tag read Petra. She seemed to calculate something, her facets glowing faintly. 72 hours without rest? The failure rate must be enormous. 94% quit or fail, Vorn said. Only those who push past every limit belong here. Danny leaned toward Petra and whispered, "So basically a 3-day weekend. I've done worse at family reunions." Petra's glow dimmed in what might have been annoyance. Several nearby recruits shot him stern looks. They moved to the equipment bay. Each recruit received standard gear, 90-pound pack, combat uniform, water rations, and a wrist monitor that tracked their vitals. The insectoid soldier next to Danny lifted 3 packs at once with different arms. His name tag said Boggs, showing off already? Danny asked. Boggs clicked his mandibles together. Stating capability. "My species is naturally stronger than most here." "Cool, cool. I'm naturally good at annoying people, so we each have our talents." Petra completed a trajectory calculation problem in under 10 seconds, while other recruits still read the question. An aquatic recruit named Reef demonstrated incredible flexibility, bending in ways that looked impossible. Everyone had something special about them. Danny did his physical assessment. He lifted the required weight. He ran the required distance. He completed the puzzle in the required time. Everything was adequate. Nothing was exceptional. Boggs watched him finish. Human abilities appear average across all metrics. "Yeah, we're pretty boring," Danny agreed. "No natural armor, no enhanced strength. Can't process information super fast. Just regular folks trying our best. Then why are you here?" Danny shrugged. "Someone had to represent Earth. Drew the short straw, I guess." Vorn's voice boomed across the bay. "Recruits, form up. The exercise begins in 5 minutes. Your first challenge is mountain terrain navigation with full packs. Variable gravity zones. Temperature extremes. 30 miles. You have 8 hours." Recruits shuffled into formation. Danny noticed the tension in everyone's movements. The crystalline beings dimmed slightly, conserving energy. The wolf-like Fenrir species checked their gear obsessively. The Chitauri-like Boggs flexed their multiple limbs, preparing. "Hey Boggs," Danny called out. "You know why humans brought backpacks into space?" Boggs turned his compound eyes toward him. "Why?" "Because we missed carrying our emotional baggage around." Several recruits groaned. Petra's glow flickered in what Danny decided to interpret as laughter. Even though she probably just had something in her optical processor, the countdown began on everyone's wrist monitors. 10 seconds. 9, 8. Danny cracked his knuckles and rolled his shoulders. His pack felt heavy but manageable. He had spent 2 years in the Coast Guard doing rescue operations. He had pulled drowning people from freezing water during storms. He had stayed awake for 40 hours straight during emergencies. This was just training. 3, 2, 1. A horn blasted across the bay. The recruits surged forward toward the training zone entrance. Danny jogged along with them, keeping an easy pace. No need to burn out early. The entrance led to an artificial mountain environment. The terrain immediately sloped upward at a brutal angle. The temperature gauge on his wrist showed it was already 30 degrees and climbing. Gravity felt slightly heavier than standard. Recruits spread out along the trail. The stronger species pulled ahead quickly. Boggs bounded up the slope with his 6 limbs. The Fenrir recruits used their powerful legs to leap between rocks. Even Petra managed a steady climb despite her crystalline structure. Danny found his rhythm. 1 foot in front of the other. Breathe steady. Don't think about the next 30 miles. Just think about the next 30 feet. His pack dug into his shoulders. Sweat started forming on his forehead. The temperature was up to 45 degrees now. This reminds me of hiking with my dad, Danny said to no one in particular. A dolphin recruit in an environmental suit was nearby, struggling with the heat. Your father took you on difficult hikes? The dolphin asked. Yeah, but he was meaner than Vorn. At least Vorn gives us water breaks. The dolphin made a gurgling sound that might have been laughter. They climbed higher. The station's artificial sun beat down. Gravity zones shifted every quarter mile, getting heavier then lighter, then heavier again. It played havoc with everyone's balance. By mile 3, 2 dolphin recruits had already quit. Their suits malfunctioned in the extreme temperatures. Medical teams retrieved them quickly. 30-5 recruits remained. Danny kept climbing, kept talking, kept moving forward. His legs burned and his shoulders ached, but that was fine. Pain was just information. It told you that you were still working, still trying, still alive. Hour 1 completed. 71 more to go. This was going to be fun. The mountain never seemed to end. Danny's legs had moved past, burning into a numb acceptance of their fate. Around him, recruits from a dozen species struggled with the terrain. Some bounded ahead with natural advantages. Others fell behind, their biology fighting against them. Hour 3 arrived with a new challenge. The gravity shifted again, this time to 1.5 times standard. Every step felt like lifting concrete blocks. The temperature plunged from scorching heat to below freezing in less than 5 minutes. Boggs slowed down considerably. His heavy exoskeleton, which had been an advantage going uphill, now worked against him. Each movement looked labored. The Chitauri species wasn't built for extended endurance. Danny remembered from the briefing files. You good up there? Danny called ahead. Boggs turned slightly. My species requires 12 hours of sleep in every 24-hour period. I am already feeling the effects. Well, you've got 69 hours to make up for it later, Danny said. Look at the bright side. There is no bright side to sleep deprivation. Sure there is. You get to experience reality from a fun new perspective. Everything gets a little weird and floaty. It's like being drunk without the hangover. Boggs clicked his mandibles in what Danny had learned was disapproval. Humans have strange coping mechanisms. You have no idea. They reached the rope climbing section at hour 4. A simulated acid pit stretched 200 feet below them. The ropes looked thin and frayed, though Danny suspected they were actually quite strong. Safety harnesses attached to each recruit, but the psychological effect was still intense. Petra went first. Her crystalline hands struggled to grip the rope properly. She slipped twice, but caught herself. It took her 8 minutes to reach the top, Boggs climbed using 4 of his 6 limbs. His technique was flawless, but his exhaustion was obvious. He made it in 6 minutes. Danny approached the rope and gripped it with both hands. His technique was nowhere near as efficient as Boggs. He used his legs more than his arms, wrapping the rope around his body to create friction points. It was slower, but saved arm strength. "You know what this rope is?" Danny said as he climbed. Several recruits below listened. "It's like my last relationship. Rough, exhausting, and somehow I'm still hanging on." A Fenrir recruit barked out a laugh despite looking miserable. Danny reached the top in 9 minutes. Not fast, but he finished. That was what mattered. 3 recruits quit at the rope section. Their arms gave out completely. They pressed their dropout buttons without hesitation. The medical team retrieved them via flying platforms. 32 recruits remained. Hour 5 brought the first rest period, though calling it rest was generous. They sat in a loud chamber with flashing lights and random bursts of sound. Sleep was impossible. Instead, each recruit received a puzzle box that needed solving before they could access the food station. Petra solved hers in 90 seconds. Her processing speed was incredible. Danny stared at his box, turning it over in his hands. Blue pieces, red pieces, some sort of locking mechanism. His brain felt foggy from exertion. Okay, so if the blue thing goes in the red slot, that might work. Nope. Maybe if I turn this part? Also nope. He kept narrating his failures. "Guys, I think this box is personally angry at me. We have history. Bad history." Reef, the dolphin in the environmental suit, managed to solve his puzzle through patient trial and error. "Human Danny, why do you talk constantly?" "Because if I stop talking, I have to think about how tired I am," Danny replied honestly. "Talking tricks my brain into thinking we're having fun." "Are we having fun?" "Not even a little bit. But my brain doesn't know that yet." Danny finally solved his puzzle at the 30-minute mark. The food station opened, revealing nutrition bars and electrolyte drinks. Everything tasted like cardboard, but it was fuel. Hour 6 arrived like a hammer. 5 more recruits hit their dropout buttons almost simultaneously. The combination of exhaustion, sensory overload, and mental challenges broke them. Boggs sat heavily on a bench. His movements had become sluggish. All 6 of his limbs trembled slightly. "I cannot continue much longer," he admitted. "Yes, you can," Danny said, sitting next to him. "You absolutely can. Your body is lying to you right now. That's what bodies do when they're tired. They're like bad friends who tell you to quit when things get hard. You do not understand Chitauri physiology. We are not built for this duration of wakefulness. Maybe not. But you've made it this far. That's further than 5 other recruits who just left. You're stronger than you think." Boggs looked at him with compound eyes that reflected light in strange patterns. "Why do you encourage me? We are competing. Are we though? I thought we were just trying to survive the same awful experience together. That's not competition. That's shared suffering, which is basically friendship with extra steps." Petra approached them, her glow dimmer than before. "Human logic continues to baffle me. However, your completion rate hypothesis is merit. If we support each other, individual success probability increases." "Exactly," Danny said. "We're all on the same team. Team, please let this end soon." Boggs made a chittering sound that might have been a laugh. "Very well. I will continue. But if I fail, I blame your terrible jokes. That's fair. I blame them for most of my problems too." Vorn's voice echoed through the chamber. "Recruits, proceed to the aquatic testing zone. You have 30 minutes to arrive." 27 recruits stood and gathered their gear. Danny noticed how many faces were already absent. Nearly a third gone in just 6 hours. The real test was just beginning. 72 hours had sounded manageable in the briefing. Now facing 66 more hours, it felt infinite. Danny shouldered his pack and started walking. His body protested every movement. His shoulders ached from the weight. His legs felt like someone had replaced his muscles with wet sand, but he was still moving, still breathing, still here. "Hey Boggs," Danny called out. "Want to hear about the time I stayed up for 40 hours trying to beat a video game?" "Not particularly." "Great, so there I was, controller in hand, 3 energy drinks deep. Boggs groaned but followed along. Petra's glow brightened slightly, perhaps in amusement. They walked toward the aquatic zone together. Whatever came next, they would face it. Because that was the only option that mattered. Keep moving forward. Cold water hit Danny like a physical wall. The aquatic testing zone consisted of a massive submerged obstacle course with limited air stations. Weighted vests kept everyone underwater. The temperature hovered just above freezing. Reef moved through the water like he was born there, because he essentially was. His species had evolved in deep oceans. He navigated the obstacles with grace that made everyone else look clumsy. He finished the course in 12 minutes. Petra struggled immediately. Her crystalline body had strange buoyancy properties. She sank too fast in some areas and floated oddly in others. Still, she adapted quickly, using her analytical mind to calculate the best paths through the obstacles. Danny swam with determination rather than skill. His technique was inefficient, all splashing and effort. But he kept moving forward, reaching each air station with seconds to spare. "This is actually nice," he said during one air break, treading water. "Free swimming pool. Back home you have to pay for this." A Fenrir recruit nearby stared at him with exhausted eyes. "You consider this enjoyable? Compared to that mountain climb?" "Yeah, this is basically a spa day." The Fenrir shook his head and continued swimming. Hour 12 arrived as they completed the aquatic course. 9 recruits quit the moment they emerged from the water. Their bodies shook uncontrollably from cold and exhaustion. The medical team wrapped them in thermal blankets and escorted them away. Boggs was among them. He stood at the edge of the pool, all 6 limbs trembling. Water dripped from his exoskeleton. He looked at Danny with what seemed like regret. "I cannot continue," Boggs said simply. "My biology has reached its limit. 10 hours without sleep is my maximum tolerance." Danny climbed out of the pool and walked over. "You made it 12 hours through the hardest military training in known space. That's not failing. That's incredible. Yet you continue." "Yeah, but I'm either really brave or really stupid." "Probably stupid." Boggs reached out with one limb and tapped Danny's shoulder. "Human Danny, you are the most confusing creature I have encountered. I hope you complete this." "Someone should. May as well be the one who never stops talking." "I'll take that as a compliment." Boggs pressed his dropout button. Medical personnel appeared within seconds. Before leaving, he turned back. "Tell the others what humans can do. They should know what they face if they ever fight alongside your kind. Or against us," Danny added. "Especially against you." 20 recruits remained. The next challenge involved strategy simulations. Each recruit sat at a terminal and commanded virtual troop through complex battle scenarios. The catch was doing it while dripping wet, freezing cold, and 15 hours into sleep deprivation. Petra excelled again. Her computer-like processing handled the multitasking easily. She completed her scenario with minimal casualties and perfect tactical efficiency. Danny made mistakes constantly. He sent troops to the wrong positions. He forgot about flanking enemies. His supply lines got cut off twice. But he also did unexpected things that somehow worked. He sacrificed a small unit to save a larger force. He retreated when advancing seemed logical. He used terrain in ways the program didn't anticipate. Vorn watched the simulations from a monitoring station. His second in command, a smaller Fenrir named Ruth, studied the data with interest. The human performs inconsistently, Ruth observed. Yes, Vorn agreed. But look at his pattern. Every mistake teaches him something. He never makes the same error twice. And his unorthodox strategies succeed 30% of the time. 30% is poor. 30% chaos in a battle plan is devastating to an enemy. They cannot predict him because he barely predicts himself. Ruth tilted her head. You sound impressed. I am concerned, Vorn corrected. Look at his vital signs. Hour 15. Heart rate elevated but stable. Cognitive function unchanged from hour 1. He should be deteriorating. Perhaps human endurance is greater than we assessed. Perhaps humans don't know when to quit, Vorn said quietly. Hour 18 brought another brutal march. 30 miles with full gear. Most recruits moved like zombies. Their eyes stared straight ahead without focusing. Coordination suffered. Several tripped over their own feet. 5 more quit before the march even began. The mere thought of another 30 miles broke something inside them. They pressed their buttons and left without speaking. 15 recruits remained. Danny walked steadily. His pace never changed. Not fast, not slow. Just constant forward movement. He sang old Earth songs badly. I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more. Just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. Petra walked beside him, her glow now quite dim. Please stop singing. Can't stop. It keeps my brain active. Your singing causes me physical discomfort. That's just because you're tired. My singing is great. It objectively is not. See, we're having a conversation. That means we're both still alert enough to argue. That's good. Petra made a sound like crystal chimes clashing together. Danny decided it was laughter. They marched through the night. The station's artificial day-night cycle meant nothing to the training program. Darkness brought cooler temperatures, but also made the terrain harder to navigate. Reef's environmental. Suit started showing warning signs. A crack had formed in the faceplate during the aquatic course. His oxygen exchange system worked overtime to compensate. You should quit, Danny told him during a brief rest. That suit looks bad. I have come too far to quit now, Reef responded. Admirable but dumb. That's very human of you. I will take that as a compliment. You should. We're the galaxy's most successful idiots. 3 more recruits dropped during the march. One collapsed completely and needed medical retrieval. Another developed severe blisters that became infected. The third simply stopped walking and sat down, staring at nothing. 12 recruits remained. Hour 24 arrived with little fanfare. 1 full day completed. 2 more days ahead. Danny's body felt like it belonged to someone else. Everything hurt in a distant, abstract way. His feet were probably bleeding inside his boots. His shoulders had permanent grooves from the pack straps, but he was still moving. Still breathing. Still making terrible jokes. Hey Petra, he said. We're only 1/3 done. The fun is just starting. Petra's glow flickered weakly. If you say fun one more time, I will press my dropout button out of spite. That's the spirit. They continued into hour 25. Hour 30 brought technical repairs. Each recruit received broken equipment and minimal instructions. Fix it while exhausted. Fix it while your hands shake. Fix it while your brain feels like mud. Petra had been the mental powerhouse of the group since the beginning. Her crystalline structure processed information faster than anyone. But now, at hour 31, she started making mistakes, simple errors. Connecting wires backward. Missing obvious solutions. Her glow had dimmed to barely visible, like a flashlight with dying batteries. Danny noticed her struggling with a circuit panel. Hey, that wire goes here, he said gently, pointing. Like connecting a phone charger. Red to red, black to black. Petra stared at the panel. I know this. Why can I not process it? Because you're tired. Your brain is saving power for important stuff like breathing and not falling over. My species requires light-based rest. This prolonged darkness is affecting my crystalline matrix. Her voice sounded different, slower. I am experiencing structural stress. Danny could see tiny cracks forming along her surface. They looked painful. You should quit, he said. This isn't worth permanent damage. I have come so far. 31 hours is far. That's further than most. You proved yourself already. Hour 32 brought combat simulations. Recruits fought against instructors using training weapons. The weapons didn't cause permanent damage, but they hurt plenty. Getting hit felt like being punched by someone who knew exactly where to punch. Reaction times meant everything in combat. Tired recruits had slow reaction times. Danny took hit after hit. A staff strike to his ribs. A sweep that knocked his legs out. A simulated blade across his back that made him gasp. But he kept getting up. Every time he fell, he stood back up. This is just like Thanksgiving with my brothers, he said, blocking another strike poorly. They're bigger than me too. I lost every fight growing up. The instructor, a Fenrir named Cole, paused. Then why continue fighting? Because eventually they got tired of beating me up. I outlasted their patience. Same strategy here. Cole hit him again. Danny rolled with it and came up ready. 2 recruits quit during combat training. They couldn't handle the combination of exhaustion and physical pain. Their spirits broke. 10 recruits remained. Petra failed her combat scenario badly. She couldn't track the instructor's movements. She fell 3 times and couldn't get up the 3rd time. Literal cracks spread across her body, glowing from within. Medical personnel rushed in. You are experiencing cascade fracture, the medic said. Continue this, and you risk permanent structural damage. Petra looked at Danny. Light leaked from her cracks like tears. Human Danny, your species is unsettling. You should not still be functional. Want to know the secret? Danny asked, kneeling beside her. My brain is too tired to remember why I should quit. Petra made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. That is the most illogical survival strategy I have encountered. Yeah, but it works. She pressed her dropout button. Medical personnel carefully transported her away, supporting her crystalline structure. 9 recruits remained. Hour 36 brought hallucinations for some. A Fenrir recruit attacked shadows, convinced they were enemies. He had to be restrained and removed from the program. His mind had finally broken under the strain. Reef reported seeing things in his peripheral vision. Threats that weren't there. His suit's damaged systems weren't helping. Warning lights blinked constantly across his faceplate. I see movement everywhere, Reef admitted. My brain invents dangers. That's normal, Danny said. Sleep deprivation does that. Your brain fills in gaps with scary stuff because it thinks you're in danger. Are you seeing things? Danny considered lying but decided against it. A little. Mostly just shadows that seem like they're moving. But I know they're not real, so I ignore them. How do you ignore hallucinations? Practice. And stubbornness. Mostly stubbornness. They faced the vertical cliff next. 1,000 feet straight up. Artificial wind machines created brutal conditions. Safety harnesses prevented death but not terror. 2 recruits froze completely. They looked up at the cliff and couldn't move. Fear overwhelmed exhaustion. They pressed their dropout buttons almost simultaneously. 7 recruits remained. Reef climbed slowly, his tentacles finding holds that others couldn't use. But his movements were shaky. His suit leaked fluid from the damaged seals. He made it to the top, but collapsed immediately upon arrival. Danny climbed using technique over strength. Find a hold. Test it. Move up, repeat. Don't look down. Don't think about the distance. Just climb. This reminds me of this time I had to climb a radio tower for work, he said, though no one was close enough to hear. This is actually safer. That tower didn't have a harness. Just me, the tower, and really bad decisions. He reached the top at hour 39. His arms felt like rubber. His legs shook with every movement. Vorn waited at the summit. Recruit Ortiz, you are still making jokes. If I stop joking, I have to acknowledge reality. Reality is terrible right now, yet you continue. Danny looked at the instructor with eyes that probably had bags under the bags. What else would I do? Quit? That's boring. Hour 40 arrived with an announcement. 32 hours remain. Vorn's voice echoed across all channels. This broke 3 recruits psychologically. The realization that they weren't even 2/3 finished destroyed whatever determination they had left. They walked to their dropout buttons without speaking. No dramatic exit. No tears. Just quiet acceptance of their limits. 4 recruits remained. Danny, Reef, and 2 Fenrir named Grit and Stone. Grit approached Danny during a brief rest. Human, I have trained my entire life for this moment. Elite Fenrir military conditioning. Years of preparation. Yet you, with your average abilities, match my pace. I wouldn't call it matching, Danny said. More like stubbornly refusing to fall too far behind. How? Grit demanded. What advantage does your species possess? Danny thought about it seriously. Humans are scared of everything. The dark, being alone, failure, death, embarrassment. Everything scares us. But we learn something important along the way. What? Fear doesn't have to stop you. You can be terrified and still keep moving. Those are separate things. So we just ignore the fear and keep going anyway. Grit stared at him with amber eyes. That is either wisdom or madness. Probably both. Hour 41 began. 29 recruits had quit or failed. 4 remained. The finish line was still 31 hours away. Danny shouldered his pack again and started walking toward the next challenge, because that was what humans did. They kept going. Zero gravity was supposed to be fun. At least that was what all the videos made it look like. Floating gracefully through space, doing flips, playing with water droplets. Reality at hour 43 was different. The rotating space station simulation spun constantly. Recruits had to rescue mannequins while their inner ears screamed in confusion. Everything was disorienting. Up became down. Left became right. Nothing made sense. Reef vomited inside his environmental suit. The aquatic species were not adapted for zero gravity at all. His suit's internal systems worked to clean it up, but the smell and discomfort remained. Still, he pushed through. He grabbed mannequins with his tentacles and pulled them to safety zones. Grit moved with military precision. His training included zero-gravity operations. Even exhausted, his muscle memory took over. He completed his assigned rescues efficiently. Stone, the other Fenrir, struggled more. His species relied heavily on their sense of orientation. In zero gravity, that sense became a liability. He completed the task, but barely. Danny was clumsy but enthusiastic. He bounced off walls, spun uncontrollably twice, and at one point floated upside down for 30 seconds, trying to figure out which way was forward. "It's like swimming in air," he said over the communication channel. "Who designed this? Give them a raise. This is amazing." "You find this amazing?" Stone asked, his voice strained. "Compared to climbing that cliff? Yeah, this is great. No gravity means my legs don't hurt anymore. That's a win." They completed the zero-gravity rescue at hour 47. All 4 recruits were still present. But barely. Medical checks were mandatory after the zero-gravity section. Reef's environmental suit was in critical condition. Multiple seals had failed. His oxygen exchange rate had dropped to dangerous levels. The station medic, a A multi-armed being with kind eyes examined the suit carefully. If you continue, you risk permanent respiratory damage. Your species requires specific atmospheric conditions. This suit can no longer provide them adequately. Reef floated in the medical bay, his tentacles limp. He looked at Danny through his cracked faceplate. "How are you still making jokes? Still smiling?" Danny's smile was more like a grimace at this point. "Because if I stop smiling, I'll realize how much everything hurts. Better to keep pretending this is fine. You have taught me something human. Endurance is not about strength. It is about refusing to acknowledge limits. That's pretty much the human motto." Reef reached out and touched Danny's shoulder with one tentacle. "Tell others about this, about what I saw here. Tell them that humans do not stop. They should know what they face if they encounter your kind." "I will." Reef pressed his dropout button. Medical personnel carefully removed his damaged suit and began treatment immediately. 3 recruits remained. Danny, Grit, and Stone. Hour 48 brought them to another mountain march. Deja vu hit hard. This was similar to the first challenge, but now they were nearly 2 full days into exhaustion. Stone made it halfway up before his legs simply stopped working. He sat down heavily on the trail. "I cannot," he said simply. Pressed his button. Left without another word. 2 recruits remained. Grit and Danny climbed side by side. Neither spoke for the first hour of climbing. They saved their breath for movement. But at hour 50, Grit broke the silence. "Human Danny, I do not understand your species. Most days, neither do I. You have no enhanced abilities, no natural advantages. Average in every measurable way. Yet you match my pace, and I am elite among my people." Danny thought about this while climbing. His legs were numb. His hands were raw. His back felt like someone had beaten it with hammers, but he was still moving. "Humans are generalists," he said finally. "We're not the best at anything. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest. So we got really good at just continuing. We're the species that looked at every other predator and said, yeah, but can you do it for 8 hours straight? Turns out most things can't. This is your advantage? Stubbornness? Stubbornness wrapped in optimism and covered with bad jokes. It's a whole package deal." They reached the summit at hour 51. Both collapsed at the top. Vorn was there waiting. 2 remain, the instructor said. "This has never happened before. Usually by this point, everyone has quit or there is one stubborn recruit barely hanging on." Grit stood slowly. "I am elite Fenrir military. I have trained my entire life for challenges like this." Danny stood even slower. "I'm a former Coast Guard swimmer who likes hiking." "We are not the same." Grit turned to face him. "No, we are not. Because I am reaching my limit, and you are not." Hour 52 brought another obstacle course, crawling under barriers, climbing walls, rope swings over pits. Standard military course design. Grit's movements had become mechanical. He operated on pure discipline now, his body running on automation. His military training carried him through. Danny's technique was terrible, sloppy, inefficient, but he kept going. He slipped and caught himself. He fell and got back up. He missed a rope swing and had to try again, and he was laughing. Grit reached the end first and collapsed. He lay on the ground, chest heaving, eyes closed. Danny finished 30 seconds later. He bent over with his hands on his knees, laughing between gasps for air. "That was awful," he said between laughs. "Let's never do it again." Vorn's voice came over the speakers. "Recruit Ortiz, do you want to repeat the course?" "No, that was a joke. Please don't make me do it again." He was still laughing. Hour 52. Still laughing. Grit opened his eyes and stared at him. "You are laughing." At hour 52. "You are laughing." "Yeah, because we made it. We're still here. That's hilarious." "That is not what hilarious means. It is when you're this tired." The next challenge was announced. Long-range marksmanship while exhausted. Hitting small targets from distance. Precision work when your hands shake and your vision blurs. Grit's hands trembled badly. His shots scattered around the targets. Some hit, many missed. His Fenrir physiology needed sleep desperately. His body was shutting down despite his determination. Danny's shots were not accurate either, but they were consistent. Same level of mediocre performance from hour 1 to hour 50-2. After the shooting range, Grit stood at his station. He looked at his shaking hands, looked at Danny's steady breathing, looked at the dropout button. Human Danny, Grit said quietly. I could continue. Perhaps I could even finish. My will is strong enough. Then why are you looking at that button? Because you have already won. Not this exercise. Something greater. Grit's amber eyes met Danny's tired but alert gaze. You have won because you do not know how to lose. Danny walked over to him. That's not winning. That's just being too dumb to quit. No, Grit said firmly. It is being too determined to accept defeat. That is the human advantage. You simply refuse to acknowledge that something is impossible. He removed his military insignia and handed it to Danny. You did not defeat me. My biology did. But you would have continued for another 72 hours if necessary. Probably not. I'd likely pass out eventually. And then you would wake up and continue. Grit pressed his dropout button. Danny stood alone. One recruit remained from 37. Danny Ortiz stood alone in the training facility, swaying slightly on his feet. His uniform was filthy. His face was covered in dirt and sweat. His eyes were bloodshot from 57 hours without sleep. Vorn appeared in person for the first time since the exercise began. The massive Fenrir instructor approached slowly, studying the human carefully. Recruit Ortiz, Vorn said. You are alone. Is that good or bad? Danny asked. His voice was hoarse. There are 15 hours remaining. You can stop now. You have proven your point. No one expects you to continue. Danny sat down heavily on a bench. Everything hurt. His feet were definitely bleeding. His shoulders had permanent indentations from the pack straps. His legs felt like they might detach at any moment. What happens if I quit now? You receive full honors. Recognition for lasting longer than any recruit in program history. Respect from every species present. But the exercise isn't over. No, Vorn admitted. Danny sat there for a full minute. Just breathing, thinking. His brain was foggy, but still working. Barely. He thought about his family back on Earth. His friends who said he couldn't make it through basic training. The recruits who had already left, certain that humans were average in every way. He stood up. His legs protested violently. Then neither am I. Vorn's ears went flat against his head. You are going to finish. Unless my legs fall off. Even then, I'll probably crawl. For the first time, Danny saw something like concern on Vorn's face. Human, I need to understand. Why? You have nothing left to prove. Danny picked up his pack. It felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Because it's not over. And humans don't do well with things being unfinished. We're weird like that. The next 15 hours blurred together. Danny moved through them in a haze of determination and exhaustion. Hand-to-hand combat against fresh instructors. He lost every match but kept getting back up. Running courses where he stumbled and caught himself 12 times per mile. Mental puzzles that took him 3 times longer than they should have. Hour 63 brought meditation challenge. Sit in one position for 3 hours without moving. Let the exhaustion wash over you. Fight to stay conscious. Danny sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. His body screamed at him to lie down. His brain begged him to sleep. He started reciting jokes in his head to stay awake. Terrible jokes. Jokes so bad they circled back to being funny. At some point, he started saying them out loud without realizing it. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Vorn watched from the observation room. He is delirious. The medical officer checked the monitors. No, sir, his vitals are stable. He is just coping. By telling himself bad jokes? Humans are strange, sir. Hour 68 arrived. Vorn presented the final challenge personally. The last test is simple. Repeat the first challenge. The mountain march with full pack. 30 miles. If you complete this, you finish the program. Danny looked at the artificial mountain. Same brutal slope. Same temperature extremes. Same variable gravity zones. The exact challenge that had started this nightmare 68 hours ago. You know what? Danny said. This seems easier than it did at hour 1. Vorn tilted his head. It is not easier. You are simply too damaged to care. Exactly. That's the spirit. Danny started climbing. Alone this time. No other recruits to pace himself against. No one to make jokes to accept himself. Just him, the mountain, and 15 more hours of existence to endure. His legs moved on autopilot. One foot in front of the other. He climbed through temperature changes without really feeling them. The gravity shifts barely registered. Pain had become background noise. He sang old Earth songs badly. He talked to himself. He counted steps when counting helped. He thought about nothing when thinking hurt too much. One foot, other foot, repeat until done. That's the human way. He stumbled and fell at mile 10. Lay there for a moment. Got back up. Gravity is a suggestion, and I'm ignoring it. At mile 20, he hallucinated slightly. Thought he saw Reef and Petra cheering from the sidelines. He waved at them. They were not really there. Mile 30 appeared eventually. The summit. The finish line. Danny collapsed at the marker and stared at the artificial sky. His chest heaved. His vision was blurry. Vorn appeared beside him. Recruit Ortiz, stand. Gonna need a minute, Danny said. You have earned more than a minute. Danny slowly pushed himself to his feet. He swayed dangerously. Did I finish? Yes, the ceremony hall was full. Every recruit who had quit was there. They had waited to see if the human would actually finish. Petra stood near the front, her cracks repaired and her glow restored. Boggs was there with all 6 limbs at attention. Reef floated in a new environmental suit. Grit stood at rigid military posture. They all stood and applauded as Danny entered. He was confused and exhausted and barely processing what was happening. What did I miss? He asked. Grit stepped forward. Human, you completed what none of us could. Alone, while maintaining humor. You have proven something today. Danny swayed on his feet. That humans are too stupid to quit. The entire hall laughed. Vorn raised his voice. In 40 years of running this program, 15,000 recruits have attempted it. 267 have completed it. Never has one finished alone. Never has one maintained humor throughout. Recruit Ortiz, you have shown us what human endurance truly means. Danny was too tired to be humble. It means we don't know when to stop. That's not always a good thing. Perhaps, Vorn agreed. But it makes you dangerous. It makes you resilient. It makes you valuable. He placed a completion medal around Danny's neck. Welcome to the Galactic Defense Initiative, soldier. The hall erupted in cheers. Species from a dozen worlds celebrating one exhausted human who simply refused to quit. Danny looked at all of them. Beings who were stronger, faster, smarter than him in specific ways. But he had outlasted them all through nothing but stubbornness and bad jokes. Thank you, he said. But I'm going to sleep now for approximately 1 week. Someone catch me if I fall. His legs gave out. Grit caught him before he hit the ground. Danny was asleep before they laid him on the medical bed. He slept for 3 days straight. When he woke up, Grit was sitting beside the bed. "How long was I out?" Danny asked. 71 hours. Danny laughed weakly. "So almost another full exercise. Want to go again?" Grit stared at him. "I genuinely cannot tell if you are serious. Neither can I." And that, Grit realized, was why humans were terrifying. They never stopped. Not really. They just paused occasionally before continuing into the impossible.